Our reading this morning is from the collection of pieces called Little Did I Know, that actually Richard has a piece in too, that I edited that came out this fall. And this piece is by Manish Mishra-Mirzetti, who is our minister at Big Church in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And it's one of my favorites. As a child, I wanted to grow up and be the old woman who lived in a shoe because, of course, having a gazillion kids in one's life with a giant shoe as a romper room sounded positively superb. But more deeply, this children's rhyme also captured the longing for parenthood that has always resided in my heart. There was just one obstacle to making this vision, or some version of it, a reality. The fact that I am gay, and therefore the culturally typical route to parenthood via biological procreation was unlikely. Decades later, in 2010, my husband and I held this longing together as we entered the open adoption process. As we did so, our participation in mandatory adoption orientations brought to light for us the profound and very personal heartache that some heterosexual couples and individuals experience too prior to arriving at adoption. Our journey was different. Biological procreation was prima facie, and was out prima facie, and we did not have the financial resources to consider surrogacy. We were truly thrilled at the prospect of open adoption. This was our first choice route to parenthood. As part of the matching process, couples and individuals approved for adoption prepare a brief electronic profile, which includes a summary of the prospective family's adoption criteria and personal background, as well as a longer, more detailed portfolio, which is basically the prospective family putting its best foot forward in sharing with a birth mom who they are and the environment they would offer a child. Birth mothers review these materials and then choose a family with whom to place their baby. Our portfolio included a video message to birth moms, an electronic collage of photos of my husband and me, and short descriptions of the life we had built together. We talked about my husband's paid work in retail sales of high-end cosmetics, as well as a deeper call as an artist. We described my diplomatic and ministerial careers and my commitment to community, local and global. We shared our intention to raise our child within the open liberal values of Unitarian Universalism, having uncles and aunties and grandparents and peers within the extended family of a congregation. Our portfolio was a view into us. It was our prayer, our longing, given shape and voice. After completing these and all other requirements, a prospective family then waits, and typically waits some more. Occasionally an adoption comes through in a matter of days or weeks, but it's not unusual for some adoptive families to wait for even a couple of years. It's a time of anticipation and prayerful waiting. Such was the season my husband and I now entered. One of mostly silent anticipation with all the routines of daily life continuing, as if we weren't on the verge of something momentous. This quiet waiting was, however, occasionally interrupted by the agency reaching out to us when a set of circumstances closely but not fully matched our criteria. Would you like this birth mother to consider you alongside other potential families, was the question they would ask. At first, these calls were exciting. They were our only tangible sign, indication that anything that we were under active consideration, and yet, after hearing nothing further, in the ensuing days, we would piece together the conclusion that the birth mother had selected another prospective family. And this realization was always an immense letdown, and yet unavoidable in the process. As the months wore on, we received so many of these calls, typically 1 or 2 a month, that we knew that plenty of birth mothers were actively considering us, just none of them were choosing us to place their child with. Alongside the discouragement, other haunting possibilities began to preoccupy us. Perhaps birth moms who carried a baby to term were conservative in their mindset. Maybe inviting such birth moms to consider a gay couple was already a stretch, and then adding our additional uniqueness, freakishness, non-typicalness into the mix, well, maybe the fact that we were an interracial couple was a problem. Maybe it's the fact that we included Unitarian Universalism in our profile, a tradition that most people know nothing about. What if the birth moms thought Unitarian Universalism is a cult and then just moved on to the next prospective family? With deep pain in my heart, I approached my husband and I asked him to consider whether we needed to revise our portfolio and somehow try to come across as a more run-of-the-mill, typical family. Maybe we needed, or what we needed to do was to rewrite all our materials and emphasize the ways in which we would be like some gay interracial version of the Brady Bunch, and downplay or not mention the aspects of our lives that others might not relate to or understand. In the midst of this profoundly tortured hand-wringing, we received the call. Yes, the one that really mattered, a placement. Come and meet your baby tomorrow. Can you do that? What? 12 hours from now? The baby's coming home with us tomorrow. After a truly frenetic night of running to the local Walmart minutes before the store closed at midnight and anxiously buying way too much stuff from the baby aisle, the next day we got to meet our newborn child, as well as the amazing birth mom who chose us over all other prospective families. And as we talked to her, she shared with us how much she loved my husband's background in retail cosmetics. She'd graduated from cosmetology school, how she wanted her child to travel and see the world just as I had. And while she didn't personally know Unitarian Universalism, she thought that a child growing up in the midst of a loving, supportive spiritual community would be so beautiful. She saw who we were, and she chose us. With deep intention and careful deliberation, she truly chose us. And the newborn babe arrived in our lives precisely because of our authenticity and not in spite of it. And our journey as parents had begun. It still gets me every time.